It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.
Welcome to Dialogues with Dan, heard on Rockland World Radio every Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sure to check out the archives by clicking on the Programs and Archives button located on the menu bar. And now the host of Dialogues with Dan, Mr. Dan Windheim.
Oh, thanks, Richard. Hi, everyone. It's Dan, and tonight we have a special, lovely guest. I'm speaking with the mayor of Nyack, Jenn.
Hi, Dan.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, I'm glad you could join us.
My pleasure.
Here at the studio. Maybe we could start by you, Jenn, telling us how you got involved in politics and what changes you have seen.
Well, I came to politics in a sort of circuitous route. It wasn't something I ever expected to do. I had a lot of different jobs. I actually was an actor at one point. I was a casting director. And then I ended up at CBS News, and I loved working at CBS News. I was a producer, and then I was a correspondent, and I traveled all over, and I had wonderful adventures. I married a man in the news business, and when I was pregnant with our first child, I was working on a TV show that got canceled. I was anchoring the overnight. I had an opportunity to go to another network. But I really did want to spend some time with my kids. And since I traveled all the time, my husband traveled all the time, both of the jobs that were available to me had very odd hours. I decided that it was time to take a break from the news business, and we decided to move to the country. So we moved briefly to Garrison, which was really the country, and I found out I was not a country girl. It was beautiful, but I actually wanted a little more of an urban life, and I had always loved Nyack. I used to come to Nyack on weekends. We came when we were courting, and so we moved to Nyack, found a great house, and so I'm going on and on, but and then I started volunteering for everything. I was used to working a tremendously long work week, and so I tried to do the same thing while lugging a baby and then two babies around, and I volunteered at the kids' school. They went to the wonderful Upper Nyack Elementary, and I started building a garden there, and then John Shields was a friend who was the mayor at the time. He appointed me to the Park Commission, and I had all these ideas for the park, and it turned out that there was $0 in village coffers for the park. So I started the Nyack Park Conservancy to raise money, and we created a master plan, and people started saying, "Why don't you run for office?" And so here I am.
And you became known. People said, you'd walk down the street, "Oh, hey, Jenn, hey, Jenn, hey, Jenn." And they see Jenn White. I'll vote for her, right?
I did know a lot of people. I'm very friendly. So
excellent. Yes. Maybe you could speak about the power of citizens.
Oh, well, I think citizens have a huge amount of power. I mean, the story I just told you is what happens when citizens decide to step up. I think, every decision we make on the village board, the more citizen input there is, the more our decisions are tailored. We really do appreciate public comment. There are some who would say we don't listen, but I actually think we listen tremendously. I think what you see happening now in Washington, what you saw with the women's marches, is that people have to let their voices be heard. Otherwise, government officials don't know what really is going on in people's heads. I also think that you can't expect everything that you believe. We are a big country, and there are people with lots of different opinions.
Yes.
But you have to let your opinions be known.
Yes, and that is more than just voting. I mean, voting gets the job done, but there's a lot more than voting in politics.
You'd be amazed. I get emails every single day on things as little as someone saying the curb on such and such street is crumbling and I tripped on it. Can you make it get it repaired? To which we can't actually, because the curbs belong to the business or homeowner. But people email me, call me, text me all the time with little things that make my job so much easier. We can, if we know about it, we can fix it. And then the bigger things like the Women's March and running for office, that kind of thing.
And when exactly did you run first run?
Well, let's see. I got to do the math on this. I've been mayor I'm in my 6th year as mayor, and I was a trustee for 2 years before that. So 8 years ago.
Yes.
You do the math on that. And I've had a great time. I love this village. I love seeing the positive change.
Yes. I'm sure you don't love everything about it, but we're not going to talk about that. Or could we?
Yeah, I don't mind talking. I mean, look, there are a lot of things. When I became trustee and then mayor, the village was struggling. It did not have enough money. It was about $1 million in debt, and in a small place like this, that's a lot of money. The roads weren't in great shape, but the marina wasn't in great shape. The waterfront wasn't in great shape. The newspapers were full of stories about our crazy bar life, and you weren't hearing a lot of good things about Nyack. Everybody was always upset about parking tickets, paying for parking. It looked a little bit tired. It was a lot of good people. I mean, being on the board, I don't want to slam the previous village boards. It's a hard job, and we are an interesting community because we are a voting community of 3,000 people. We're 6,000 residents, but we're actually the downtown for more like 12,000 people. Upper Nyack, South Nyack, they all spend lots of time. Most of their weekend activities, some of their shopping. Nyack is their community, but we don't have their tax dollars to pay for things, so that we get the wear and tear from the 12,000, but we get the tax dollars from the 3,000 households and the 6,700 residents. So it's a very tricky equation, and one of the great challenges is that has been so much fun is trying to figure out how to increase your tax base in a way that doesn't hurt what's great about your village, how to keep taxes low so that people want to live in your community, but how to fix things, keep things working, make sure trash is picked up on time and snow is plowed. So it's been an excellent, I'm very proud to say we have $2 million in the bank now. We've come back from a tremendous deficit.
Awesome.
We had a 0% tax increase this year. We're paving 10% of our roads every year. We have a brand new hotel. We have Bar Taco, which is a fabulous restaurant going in on the waterfront. We have properties that have sort of languished as abandoned properties, poorly performing on the tax rolls, being turned into residential properties, which can only help the downtown. You need people to shop in your stores. We've had controversy. There's this big waterfront development that has been controversial. It's a beautiful piece of property. It's the project is going to impact the people in the immediate neighborhood. So the balance we've had to do as a village board is try to ensure that there's enough. It's private property, so you're very limited in, private property, privately owned, and the existing building code allowed for very big buildings. What the village board has tried to do is balance, essentially, let the buildings be slightly bigger, but in exchange try and retain the waterfront for the community. Not have it be walled off and private. And it's caused, if you live in the neighborhood and the buildings are tall, you don't want them to be any bigger than is allowed. So there's been controversy and it's been heated.
Yes.
And those are hard things for village boards. You understand the neighbors' concerns, but you also see the bigger picture. We don't want that last bit of waterfront walled off. We don't want surface parking. We want underground parking.
What sort of things have people been doing to protest?
No.
Or what could they do, and what might they do?
Well, it was very rough. The village board meetings were rough, but, I applaud people for attending village board meetings. We took a lot of concerns under advisement, and we implemented them when making changes. We couldn't satisfy the people who wanted nothing because it's privately owned, and there's somebody who wants to develop it. People on Facebook got virulent, really tough. Somebody messed with my car. They spit on it. And they made a little dent, and I was really bummed because it was.
Yes.
I hadn't had a new car in 15 years, and it was a used car, but it was a little fancy car with a stick shift, and
like in Piermont, with the Fradies, the weeds.
Oh yeah.
That people wanted to keep those. But big companies want to kill those, and people protested against that being done.
Successfully. I think the Phragmites are going to get to stay, right?
I think so.
The bigger issue there, too, seemed to be the pesticide use. They were basically going to dump a bunch of pesticides. I mean, Phragmites... Yeah, that was another one, but they were so beautiful. Yes. I know they were invasive, but they were beautiful.
So do you work with, the mayor of Piermont?
I do.
And, exchange ideas?
Yeah. I was on the phone with the mayor of Grandview today. We're going to have lunch on Monday. I had lunch with the mayor of South Nyack a couple weeks ago.
Yes.
Chris Sanders, the mayor of Piermont, is wonderful. Jeff Hinden just resigned as mayor of Upper Nyack, but our kids were... they played doubles for the high school team together, and Karen Tarapata is going to replace him, and I know her. And so I think it's important, particularly the river villages, that you all work together. Each village has its own identity and its own decision making, but you need to support each other. We try to share things like when we buy paving materials, it's cheaper if you buy in bulk. We're working on a recycling program that would work within South Nyack, Nyack, and Upper Nyack to reduce recycling costs for taxpayers, that kind of stuff.
That's smart.
Yeah.
Right? So do you just work with the immediate counties, or would you work with other counties further in the state, or even other states?
If I have a perplexing problem, I will reach out to people in Westchester, sometimes people in the city. I do reach out to the governor's office for problem solving.
Yes.
I think it's important. There's lots of resources out there. You have to be willing to go and seek answers to questions that are bigger than yours.
Exactly. Are there any websites or groups or organizations maybe you could share for people listening that might go to them?
You mean if they're interested in getting involved in government?
Or learn more about...
Well, I always say to people, I don't think people know how great the Village website is. The Village website... It's a little complicated, but it's a newly designed website, and we keep making improvements. Again, another example, people write me and say, I really couldn't find this on there. And so it's clear to us that when we hear that we have to work on it. Doug Foster, who's one of the deputy mayors, he's a guy who's got a job in the city. He's got a full-time job. So most of the trustees, this is intended to be a very part-time job, including the mayor job. I'm just fortunate that I was able to take it on as a full-time job at very part-time pay. But Doug designed the website. He's constantly tweaking it. And there's huge amounts of information. And if you can sign up for alerts so that if you're interested in knowing what meetings are coming up, you can sign up for meetings and you'll get an alert on your phone or on your computer. If you want just emergency notifications, you can get that. If you want to know about a specific topic, you can get alerts about that topic. So that's a great local resource.
The name of it is?
It's www.villageofnyack.gov, I think. But if you put in Village of Nyack, it'll come up. It's your first hit on.
That's great. And that brings us to tonight's main point. This election. Boom. This election. Boom. Yes. What can people do at this point? I mean, many people, I imagine, aren't happy about this election. What can they do?
Well, look, I will say I was delighted. I participated in the New York version of the Women's March. My husband came with me, and we both, kept bursting into tears, truthfully, because it was a very powerful thing. It was a reminder that there are a lot of people who are very unhappy and who are, more importantly, very worried. I have Republican friends. I have people I care about who voted for Donald Trump. I agree with them that he is our president, and then we need to remain hopeful that the change he brings about is change that is good for the country and not bad for the country. That said, there were a lot of things he did and said leading up to the election that, I told you are a person with a disability. We have a child in our family with a disability. I found that when he mimicked the reporter with the disability, I found that repugnant, and I was just stunned. I remain stunned. It broke my heart.
Exactly.
And
what did you do at that point?
At that point, it didn't. I couldn't conceive that somebody who would ever do that would become president of the United States.
So you were like, what a mistake. You lost, buddy.
I was, and as he continued, that kind of behavior continued to seem to not matter. It was, I'm sure you feel the same way. It was totally perplexing to me because to me that stuff is at the core of who you are as a person. The way you treat other people is in many ways the core of what someone running for president, they should embody goodness and graciousness toward all.
What happened?
Well, I think that, and a lot of people have said this, I think that the people who supported him did not take any of that literally, or they were so sick of the status quo. I've heard they were sick of people that were familiar. They felt like Washington was broken. I don't disagree with them. I think there are a million things that need to change. So I think the people who voted for him voted for extreme change, and were willing to overlook what I think are terrible, terrible character traits. So I do think it's important for people like us who are very worried and who know disabled people and gay people and people of color and immigrants and Muslims and women, all of the people. We need to protect each other. We need to demand that he make people less worried. We need to demand that those horrible things he said while he was getting elected do not come true.
Exactly. So, do you feel that protests, marches, or do anything besides uniting people or groups?
Well, I thought the protests were astoundingly magical.
Yes.
That's a lot of people. You have to pay attention to that many people. I think there are a lot of practical things, and the great part of social media, the mean part is not so great, but the great part of social media is that if you go on Facebook on any given day, there are countless numbers for senators and congresspeople you can call. There's information. You have to be very careful about your information. We learned that fake news is, people believe fake news, and that's unfortunate.
Alternative facts.
Or alternative facts.
Yeah.
Yikes.
That's crazy.
But I've subscribed to lots of print media. The print media was in danger anyway. I think it's the greatest thing that happened to them. I have a lot of friends who work in the print media, and it's been very tough for them for a long time since the internet came along. But I've subscribed to the Wall Street Journal. I've subscribed to the New York Times, to the Guardian. I check. You find really good news sources, subscribe to them, and follow them. I check them, figure out who the bloggers are, or the web pages. 538 is an interesting web page that deals in statistics. It's, in fact, the only place that really came close to calling Trump's victory, including some of the more conservative papers and pages. I think it's important to stay really well informed. And out of that, you'll find what the thing is that matters to you most, and then you work on that. You if it's Planned Parenthood, then give money to Planned Parenthood, volunteer for Planned Parenthood. There's lots of ways of volunteering. There's a postcard. Festoon across the street is having a postcard writing on Friday night to send postcards to follow up on the Women's March.
So you're telling everyone, don't give up. They might have lost the battle, but not the war.
Yeah,
right?
We can't give up. We're a great country,
Yes.
and we can't give up. We have to, I think we have to protect each other.
Yes.
We have to make sure that bad things don't happen. I'm going to try to remain hopeful. I think we have to remain hopeful that the president will settle down and not do not damage our nation.
Yes. Many people say that he won't even make 4 years.
I'm not going to make predictions.
That he'll get bored with it and give it to his staff
and Pence. It does seem like an odd job. It's a very hard job. You look at how every president has aged. It's a hard job, and the weight of the world is literally on your shoulders. So it's
yes. So, Mayor White, I think you touched on it, but maybe you could repeat it. The most rewarding thing you found as being mayor, and maybe something you don't find rewarding.
Well, it is tremendously rewarding to watch your community get stronger and to see little by little things improve. I also have to say it's tremendously rewarding getting to know people in the community. I'm very friendly. I knew a lot of people when I ran for mayor, but I know so many more. I mean, I'll say Piper, who just died, Piper who lived on the streets of Nyack, who was a wonderful man. We're the kind of place where we all knew Piper. We all spent time with Piper. We listened to Piper. We all tried to help Piper. And when I went there was a funeral, for those of you who don't know Piper, there was a funeral with over 100 people and a potluck supper at the Nyack Center and people sharing tales of Piper. And we live in a pretty remarkable place, a community that I said in a Facebook post, Piper may have been homeless because he didn't, he may have, how did I say it? Actually, I can't remember. I said Piper certainly didn't have a house, but he certainly did have a home because everybody in Nyack knew him.
Exactly.
So that knowing people, seeing positive change, that's all been tremendously rewarding. The downside, I would say, for those, being an elected person is a tough job. You're trying to make a lot of people happy. You're trying to solve a lot of problems. I would urge people, particularly in the world of social media, to be a little kinder and gentler. It's easy to condemn decisions. It's easy to condemn people. It's easy to make accusations. But we do have to be careful, because to serve, there's going to be many who come after me, and all over this nation there are people stepping up to serve, and it's a tricky and tough thing to do. But we want to encourage people to do it. Yes, we don't want to discourage them. That's my way of saying, the frustrating, difficult part of this job has been sort of social media, and it's a willingness to take people down who are trying to do a difficult job.
Exactly. So you feel you've become a better person as mayor?
Yeah, or I've definitely learned that the world, that my view is not the only view of the world that has to be listened to.
Exactly. And, well, I guess you're doing the next best thing, as they say, right?
Well, I always say a really good, you've made a really good decision when both the people who want, both sides of the argument are a little bit unhappy, because it shows that you've come up with a fair and equitable decision.
Yes. As mayor, are there term limits?
No, there are no term limits, but I've given myself a limit. This is my last year.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
And so when we're at the end of this year?
Yep, December of 2017.
Yes. Would you ever seek higher office?
I might seek higher office. I'm intrigued by it. I think particularly after this election, I do feel like if people enjoy it and seem to have an aptitude for it, I don't know if I have an aptitude, but I do enjoy it, then maybe that is my responsibility.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a good, measuring stick. I mean, you feel you've gotten positive feedback and you have to go for it, right?
Okay.
So, one of my last questions, or if not my last, what did you learn from previous mayors? Or what have you learned from other office holders?
Oh, I've learned a lot. John Shields was sort of the first person who took me under his wing, and he taught me an awful lot about, he sort of showed me the way. He was a very gracious, fun mayor, and he kept nudging me toward this. Yes. Terry Hecker is, I consider her a dear friend. She has taught me that you have to sort of laugh when you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm going to tear my hair out, or yes, this is, that you have to laugh. And then there's a lot of people, Andy Stewart's been a wonderful friend. My colleagues on the board, Don Hammond, Doug Foster, Marie Lorenzini, Louise Parker, and now Donna Lightfoot Cooper, yes, they're all, it's interesting. You serve together, and it is a bit like being in a very small town foxhole. I've been very lucky. Lots of people have taught me things over time.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So, I think that's a word of advice to anybody. Find somebody who you like and who can mentor you.
Excellent. Would you have any advice for maybe future mayors or future, well, I guess you've been trying to control people to get involved?
I think people should get involved. I'm always urging, when someone comes along, Sarah Anderson, who is the woman who built the wonderful skate park.
Yes.
She's unfortunately moving to Long Island. She has one of her parents is ill. But she was somebody I thought, now she's a great one. She knows how to put it all together. Yes. She She wasn't too bruised when people were critical, because believe it or not, people are critical of everything, and there were people who didn't like the skate park.
Yes.
But I you meet people. I meet people quite frequently, and I think, that's somebody who has just thick enough skin, just enough enthusiasm, and isn't likely to be, because it's a contact sport. Government, it's
Yes.
like boom, 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 and you.
Yeah, I actually interviewed the woman about the skateboard.
You did, isn't she great?
Yeah, fantastic. That was a great interview.
Yep,
and boom, there it is.
There it is.
Right down there.
And she didn't let anything stop her, and that's sort of. It's the key to a lot of things in life. Like get your sights on it and just go. And there were times, there were people who were very critical of the skate park, and she would call me in tears and be like, "No, you can do this." And raising money is hard, and she did it. She had all the tools.
Exactly. I'm sure you were a great influence on her.
I do hope I hope I'm more of a big sister than a mother, but
You're right. It's all, give and take.
And we do have to support each other. I think
Yeah,
that's incredibly
exactly.
important.
Yes. Well, Jenn White, I'd like to thank you for
All
joining
right,
me.
Dan, this has been a pleasure. I'll come back
Dialogues.
anytime.
Oh, thank you. And, well, everyone, this has been Jenn White on Dialogues with Dan, about all good stuff, some bad stuff, mostly good. Have a great night, everyone. Peace.
Peace.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com.